One classic way of beginning a lecture, especially perhaps a philosophy lecture, is by defining our key terms. This is how our patron saint in the discipline, Socrates, is often understood. He would tell his interlocutors, we can't talk about virtue until we know what virtue itself is. Now, our key terms are science and philosophy. I'm hoping you'll let me let "of" slide for now. But there's an apparent problem here. And this problem might explain why his contemporaries were tempted to kill Socrates. How do we come to know enough about virtue to feel entitled to talk about it? In our case, how do we come to know enough about science or about philosophy in order to feel entitled to perpetrate philosophy upon these ideas? Now, putting issues about the interpretation of Socrates aside, it's nice to have a rigorous understanding of our project right at the start. On the other hand, requiring a rigorous understanding right at the start makes it awfully hard to get going. So in our case, it's perhaps unsurprising that getting clear about the nature of science is itself one of the major philosophical issues within philosophy of science. And as we'll see, it's not an easy task. We'll spend our next two lectures pursuing without quite resolving this issue. And it's perhaps even less surprising that it's hard to get clear about the nature of philosophy. Questions about the proper business of philosophy are themselves perennial, perhaps the perennial, philosophical questions. Even within the philosophy of science, we will see quite incompatible views about the nature and about the role of philosophy. So, not only would we have to know quite a lot about the philosophy of science in order to define the discipline, we also have to come to some difficult decisions about what the discipline should be. On the other hand, we can't get going without some sense of what science and philosophy might believably be. Fortunately, then, definitions aren't quite what we need. Rigorous definitions are the outcome of good philosophizing, not a precondition of it. What we need is a reasonably clear and reasonably simple statement of a question and some good reasons for getting interested in that question. And that's not so hard. Science is special, and we'd like to understand what's special about it. We can clarify this issue quite a lot without reaching for something as grand as a definition. We need to start from some idea of what counts as a science, but we only need some clear cases of science in order to get started. And we have some unproblematic cases before us. Parts of physics surely count as science. Maybe the theoretical parts far removed from experimental confirmation shouldn't count. We can worry about that later. Maybe economics counts as a science. Maybe it doesn't. We do need something of a rationale, however, because we're not interested, or at least equally interested, in every sense in which science is special. If, as the stereotype would have it, scientists share an especially unfortunate fashion sense, that's not the kind of distinction about science that we're interested in. The notion of science as an astonishingly successful enterprise gets closer to the root of our puzzle. But not every way in which science succeeds is of direct concern to us here. We humanities types are notoriously jealous of how good scientists are at getting grants, but that's not quite the sense of success at issue when we're philosophizing about science. Even the amazing technological successes of science don't quite get at the root of the puzzle. Computers and airplanes and such have surely transformed the world, and they surely suffice to show science's importance. But they don't yet show the special kind of importance that science has. In order to appreciate the special kind of importance that science has, we need to introduce a philosophical term. The intriguing importance of science is epistemic. Epistemology is a fancy Greek word meaning the theory of knowledge and justification. Philosophers are professionally incapable of doing without this word, I'm afraid. Now, there's no need to worry here about just what counts as knowledge. Because we're doing preliminaries, we just want to get started, and we start by noting we have a special epistemic confidence in science. This special confidence manifests itself in a number of ways. It helps explain why scientists get those grants of which we're jealous, why we're confident that airplanes won't crash, and why we pay special attention to doctors about what to eat, to ballistics experts about criminal trials, to climatologists about global warming.